Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for this morning. So today we're going to talk a little bit about staying active, simple habits for lifelong health. Yes, hi, good morning, welcome. Let's get sorted out first, right? Great. Okay, so let me just go through what we're going to share today or what we're going to cover today. These are some of the agendas that we're going to cover throughout the session that we're going to have for the next 1 hour. First, we're going to talk about why staying active is actually more important than ever, right? So there's huge statistics that shows that it's getting worse. So we want to just get on pace where we start looking at things more actively, right? So what counts as movements? We're going to talk a little bit about inactivity and what are the health risks that you're going to get if you're being inactive. Adapting fitness to your health, which is something that a lot of people don't want to do, but there are certain shortcuts that we can actually practice in order for us to get into it. Personalizing your movements routine, common barriers that you have, and how you want to celebrate the easy wins. Your movement goals, like what you want to set for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, and whatnot. And finally, staying motivated, right? Okay, great. Now, before we start, there are certainly a few house rules that I want to impose. Number one, make sure that you're using a supported browser. We have some recommendations there: Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and also Edge. Ensure that your internet connection is actually stable throughout the period of this webinar. We don't want any glitches to come in and you can't hear some of the things that I'm going to say. Test your speakers output. Make sure that you can hear me clear. So before we start, just try it out and see that if you can hear me clear. If you can't, right now, then please try to do something about it. But if you experience any difficulties technically, try refreshing your browser. Most of the time it works. But if you can't, just go out and try joining it again. That would work as well. And even if you try all that and it still continues to, still having this difficulty, then you can just message at Naluri, and then my team will actually help you at Naluri Events, right? And then my team will actually help you with the technical difficulties moving forward. Right. Okay. So a few more things that I want to also talk to you about about how you're going to ask questions and what we're going to do and whatnot. Number one, ask your questions whenever you feel like asking the questions. Participate in the polls so we get more details, we get more idea about how we want to make this webinar more suitable for you. Share your thoughts if you have to, and if you want to type something personally to me, you can. You just need to put at Shasikumar, and then I will actually get it, like a PM for me. And even if you want to send a private message to me, you can. There is a tick button when you want to send a message that says remain anonymous or send private message. Then you can actually send it to me, and I will never mention your name. Right? Handouts will be available to download once this webinar is done, and we're also going to get some of your feedback at the end of this webinar. So this webinar will be shared to you as a PDF format, right? Great. Okay. So with all that, let me just introduce myself a little bit to you. My name is Shasi. I have been in the field for 25 years. I started in the year 2000 as a fitness coach. And then I started working in the gym, and I got into a hospital as a biomechanics specialist, working with people with stroke, heart attack, diabetes, and trying to help them to move as normally as they can again, even after they go through some sort of surgical procedures, and that doesn't allow them to move anymore. So I help them to move again, right? I've done talks like this, similar to this, not only in Malaysia, but I've done in many countries, especially in the Southeast Asian region. I give advice primarily for weight loss, metabolic disease management, sports and nutrition, and also I look primarily in people who want to start developing new habits to make sure that their lifestyle changes and to make sure also their physical activity sustains for a long period of time, right? So with that, I'm going to ask a very good question here. Why staying active is more important than ever? So let's be interactive, right? Let's be interactive. So before I get into the polls and the statistics and all that, let's hear from the crowd now. Like, you can chat and let me know why you think is staying active is a lot more important now. Because health is wealth. Yes, Dr. Nagendran, certainly health is wealth. Anyone else? Why specifically now? Why do you want to talk about it a lot now? If you see like in social media and everything else, a lot of people are coming out with health related topics, right? Hospital price increasing, exactly. Wellness is not cheap anymore, right? Okay, so we have to live a long life healthy. Yes, that's right. We see it a lot more nowadays. Exactly, Aslan. We definitely see it a lot more, right? Keeping you sane, Sakina, certainly, right? It does keep me sane as well. For mental health, exactly, because of sedentary lifestyle, health, money. Yeah, so all of you are right? But also statistically, there's been a lot of research that are recently done that also supports this, right? So when we look at statistics, we are looking at certain polls that are done internationally, and also we are looking at certain stats that are done locally as well, right? So for locally in Malaysia, there is a statistics called NHMS, which is done by WHO. What they actually say is that in Malaysia specifically, if you see the highlights on the screen on the left on the right side, you can see that overall, when we look at diabetes, when you look at cholesterol, hypercholesterolemia, when we look at obesity, Malaysia is actually getting to become one of the top scorers, right, in all this, right? So um, how did we get into this? I'm going to cover a little bit of that, right? But when we look at comorbidities, that means more than one risks or more than one health risk that you have. 50% of nation has actually or diagnosed with it, right? So we don't know how many people are not diagnosed with it, right? And what are the main factors why this thing is currently happening in Malaysia? Number one, urbanization, right? So why do we talk about urbanization in this? Okay, let's think about fast food. A lot of the fast food that we have here actually comes from abroad, right? Like even KFC for the matter that's been here for one of the longest, McDonald's, right? All these are American based food and they come here when we develop cities. This become a favorite. Why? Because it's easy to get, right? And when it's easy to get, people tend to go for it, right? It's fast. It's marketed in a way that come grab and go kind of thing, right? So everybody goes to it. Accessibility, yes, it's now in the app, right? You just sit in your office and you order everything and it comes to you, right? So bad food is one of the biggest factor when we talk about all these three, right? Number two, sedentary lifestyle, right? We don't do any exercise, we don't move a lot, right? So that falls into the time management. So we feel that, yeah, ultra processed food, why chin? Exactly, right? Um, so we see that, we don't move because we always tell ourselves that we don't have time, right? So these are some of the things that actually happens that leads towards it. So if you want to ask me to summarize all this, I would give you 5 different things that I want to say. Number one, food. Number two, exercise. Number three, sleep. Number four, hormone. Number five, mental health. These are the 5 main factors that I could categorize as a whole that affects you when it comes to any kind of comorbidities in Malaysia, right? So before I go on to the next one, I would like to get a very simple poll on how often do you actually exercise or how frequently do you actually make a movement. So maybe we can put the poll up and get people to answer. Great. Okay, so let's answer, right? How often do you incorporate movement into your daily life? Once a week, never, 2 or 3 times a week, every day? Oh, you're having quite a few people who's doing it every day. Interesting. 2 or 3 times a week is actually championing at the moment. Right, we have another 49% of the audience who haven't answered yet, 47 now. Nice. Keep on going. It's okay if you don't do it, right? That's absolutely fine, right? So why we are here today is to just to learn. If you have not done it, then how you can start and how you can progress with it, right? So that's fine, right? So just be honest to yourself, be honest to us, so I can actually address based on the poll that I have here. Okay, so we've got 103 answers, 106 answers, total 60% of all of you have answered. Still championing 2 to 3 times a week, which is good. Which is good. That is actually the bare minimum that we're looking at. Okay, still coming. Still coming. Great. Yeah, these polls are anonymous. So please don't worry. I wouldn't know who's actually responding, right? So these polls are anonymous. Twice a week. Uniyama, no problem, no problem. Just put it up. Okay, great. So at of current moment, we have about 61% of you have answered. 42% have said 2 to 3 times a week, followed by once a week at 27%, and then every day at 25%, and we have about 5% who said that they have never, right? So that's absolutely fine, right? That's absolutely fine. At least now we know for a fact of what we are doing and how much we're doing it on a weekly basis, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Now, I'm going to talk about why movement is important, right? Why movement is important and why different types of movement is important. Hello, hi, Michael, welcome, right? So how different types of movement is very, very important. Now, there are three major things that would happen to you, right? So I've put in the percentage. So when we talk about small movements versus intense workout, right? So how small movements are going to help versus how intense workout is going to help. Now, 20% higher adaptation when you have small movements. So muscle adaptation happens better when you continuously have movements throughout. So a lot of small movements and not one time go and get a intense workout, right? So when you build this up eventually, what happens to you is that your muscle gets adapted to the movements that you do. So which means that muscle memory increases with these movements, and you want to continuously do this for a long period of time. So also means that when muscle gets adapted, your muscle works together well, right? And when your muscle works together well, you have muscle synthesis, muscle engagement, and muscle usage synthesis a lot higher as well, right? Number two, I'm going to talk about metabolic benefits. So what are metabolic benefits? Metabolic benefits directly impact you in terms of your weight management, in terms of your metabolic diseases or metabolic symptoms or whatsoever, right? So higher benefits with intense workout. Example, let me talk about something that often happens to a lot of people: obesity. Obesity is caused by many different factors, right? It can be metabolic syndrome, it can be insulin resistance, it can be sedentary lifestyle, or taking food and overeating. However, a lot of times in the past, people have thought that putting on weight or obesity is just a byproduct of a very unhealthy lifestyle, right? But however, we now categorize obesity as a metabolic disease, right? So it is a disease that it needs to be managed a lot better, right? So when we talk about obesity or when we talk about abdominal obesity, one of the best ways that you can actually target abdominal obesity is by doing an workout which is very intense, especially workout in the range of HIIT kind of workout, right? So that means high intensity interval workout. So yeah, Muhammad, I'm going to touch that. High intensity interval workout. So high intensity interval workout, because the nature of the workout itself pushes your body to a limit and then brings it down, pushes your body to a limit and then brings it down. It teaches the body to use different kinds of energy intake. So you have three different main kinds of energy intake. One comes from your muscle, another one comes from your food, the third one comes from your fat. So the longer it takes, the more adaptation of fat utilization for energy that happens, and it actually targets more of the ATPs and also the fat or glycolo-oxidative energy a lot more better, right? So when you do that, you actually help to target a lot more abdominal obesity or abdominal fat more effectively, right? The third one, I'm going to talk about CVD versus CD. So coronary cardiovascular disease and coronary disease, right? So how does it benefit you? So when you do smaller movements, you 30% of the so you get up to 30% benefit of improving CVD or CD when you start doing smaller movements. Now let's talk about what is small movements. As how Mohammed Alif asked here. Yes, it is absolutely true. It is like walking, going for a jog, run, right? Slow runs, right? That you can do sustainably for at least about 15 to 30 minutes, right? So that's basically what small movements are. But I'm going to touch that a little bit more in the next slide. Right. So here, let's look at some of the adaptation. I'm just going to go through. This is very scientific, and I don't want to bore you with scientific graphs. But what these graphs actually show is that, okay, I'm going to touch that, Revati. Good question. So what I'm actually going to show here in this particular graph is the adaptiveness of your muscle, and also how it actually helps you with metabolic syndrome. So when you look at the top graph on your left, on your right, which is the weekend warrior. So when you do something which is very high intense only for the weekend, we see that the muscle adaptation is a lot lower, but it targets a lot of oxidative energy buildup. So oxidative energy usage. So when it's a lot of oxidative energy usage, it actually gets into your trans fats a lot better, right? But when you look at down, when we see at something that you do regularly, it doesn't boost or it doesn't ensure that you lose fat very, very high. But it actually, what it does is that it shows that you continuously lose fat for a longer period of time, even though it's in a lower rate, right? So Revati, for that particular question, yes, we do not have spot reduction, which means we cannot target specifically from which part that we use. But when we do HIIT, the rate of burning during that particular exercise itself is extremely high, and that allows you to target more on your abdominal fat, which is a lot more better compared to the one that you do on a more longer range. So when you do on moderate intensity exercise longer, it targets energy from parts that it targets energy from glycolysis first, and then it goes into oxidative, right? So which means that you don't use a high spike of energy, so which means that it takes from different modes better. But when you go and do HIIT, because of that mode of HIIT, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, the body has to force itself to take energy that comes in more in a more higher range. So glycolysis, which comes from your food, is very, very limited. ATP that comes from a muscle is also extremely limited. But because of the exhaustion that you feel quite highly, your body learns how to use fat from a source which is highly great. So it actually targets the abdominal fat a lot more effectively when you do HIIT-based exercise compared to when you do steady state or more of a moderate intensity exercise. I hope that answered your questions, Revati. Is doing weightlifting good if not work in my cardio? No, it's good. It both works well. So let me just explain to you a little bit about weightlifting and cardio. So when you talk about cardio, it's more onset muscle needness, right? So during at that particular time, you get you utilize a lot more energy, right? So example, if you do half an hour of cardio, you're probably going to burn about 100 calories, 120 calories, right? But it stops at the time that you do cardio. But what happens when weightlifting is that when you get more muscle into your body, you increase the rate of metabolic inside your body, right? And second thing, what happens is that you have something called exercise post-oxygen consumption, which is known as EPOC. EPOC is the process of the body utilizing excessive oxygen even after you work out, which happens greatly when you do weight-based exercise or weight-bearing exercises or resistant exercises. So in layman term, it literally means you don't burn as much while you're doing weightlifting, but you get the benefit of continuous burning after you do weightlifting, right? So which means you're going to burn smaller amounts of energy continuously for the next couple of hours or maybe for the next couple of days, right? So that's why weightlifting is a lot more effective in sustainable weight loss compared to cardio. But here, all these questions, I see that we are primarily focusing on weight loss, right? But it's a lot more greater than that. It's a lot more greater than that. So we're talking about obesity, we're talking about high blood pressure, cholesterol, we're talking about high cholesterol, we're talking about high blood glucose, diabetes, and whatnot, right? So HIIT help our body to use energy from fat. Not necessarily accurate, Alif, but HIIT at that particular point has more usage of fat at that particular point, right? But in long term, weight training is a lot more effective. Okay, accumulated movement adds up. Number one, we always... Okay, so I'm going to address that question later, Marinas. So when you talk about movement and we talk about why we should move and how we should move, right? So according to National Heart Institute, they say that we have to exercise approximately 150 minutes a week, right? For us to actually have a good heart health, for us to have a good health, right? But a lot of times we can't allocate 30 minutes in one go, right? So assuming someone goes to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, like myself, I stay in Kajang. It takes me an hour and a half to get to work. And once I get to work, I finish work and I travel back. It takes me another 1.5 hours to get back home, right? So by the time I come back home, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I don't have the mood. I'm hungry, right? The only thing I think of is eating. So things like this could actually happen. So how do I manage this, right? So for people who can't do it in one shot, one of the best ways that we can do is to get 5 minutes of walks at least 6 times a day, right? 5 minutes of walks 6 times a day, and that accumulates to 30 minutes. And you can do it every day as well. So if you don't want to do this every day, you can do it for 20 minutes, 7 days. If you don't want to fix it to 5 days in a week, you can do it 7 days a week and aim for 20 minutes a day, right? So that works as well. So try to make movements as part of your lifestyle rather than trying to make it as something that you want to do as an exercise. So example, what if I don't want to go back after work? What if I want to go and go to a shopping mall and I want to walk for half an hour? I want to go do window shopping. Is that considered exercise? Yes, absolutely. It's definitely considered exercise, right? So you can go and do shopping. Or what I used to teach people is that after a meal, wait for about 5-10 minutes and take a 10 minutes walk. So you do 3 meals a day and you take 10 minutes walk after the 3 meals, then that gives you your 30 minutes for that day, right? So these are some of the things that you can also consider. And the best thing that we actually don't do often is standing, right? So when you stand, you have more stroke volume that happens in your body. You have better blood circulation. You have better utilization of energy. Fiddle is like something like this, right? So you continuously fiddle your leg, your hand, and all that. So this actually works, right? So you don't have to go hard, just keep going. So that's basically what I usually tell people. Before I go to the next slide, let me just address a few of the questions. Going for RPM class every day, 40 to 45 minutes, is it good? How about yoga? Okay, so when we think about excessive cardio exercise, right? So when you lose weight excessively, you don't, or when you do activity that requires a lot of energy at that particular point of time, what happens to your body is that you don't only lose the fat, right? Your body has 3 or 4 different components that you probably would lose. Number one is that you're going to lose fat. Number two, you're going to lose your precious muscles. Number three, you're going to lose water from your body tremendously. Number four, you're going to lose your bone density because it's not weight bearing, it's not high impact exercises. So when you do this continuously, yes, you will see that you're losing weight, but you also see that you're losing muscle density, which means that you feel that you're softer. And what happens with going for excessive cardio classes, right? Like RPM every day, right? What happens to it? So what happens is that in long term, once you hit the age of 40, 41, 42, you're going to go through a process called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is a process where your body automatically loses muscle mass or loses muscle percentage as we grow older every year for a percentage of 1 to 3, if I'm not mistaken. So every year you lose about that much of muscle, right? So when that happens, what happens when you get older? Right. So when you get older, a few things happens. You lose strength. You can't stand. You can't sit all the way down. Right. You can't walk properly. You have to get on a wheelchair because your bone density loses. Right. And everything goes haywire in your body because you do not have the most important metabolic cell enough in your body to maintain your body health. Right. What about yoga? Yoga is more in the aspect of flexibility and mobility aspect. So when you look at health, we have heart strength, we have muscle strength, we have flexibility, and we have mobility. So when we talk about yoga alone, we are talking about 1 or 2 aspects of exercise, right? Consistency is key. Yes, that's right. Is window shopping more effective if you carry some bag instead of empty? Definitely, Waichin. Definitely, window shopping is better if you carry more bags. Yes, I do almost every day walking in the mall 30 minutes a day. Yeah, Carrie, that's actually a good exercise, right? But just prevent yourself from eating, because what usually happens is that when we walk in the mall, we go and eat after that. We buy some snacks, we buy ice creams, and we walk around, right? Your wallet is unhealthy that way. Exactly, Billy, right? So window shopping, yes, but don't go for shopping every day, right? Is it all right for someone above 50 to just start lifting weights? Yes, absolutely, Janani. It's one of the best ways for you to maintain your health is to lift weight. In fact, anybody who is actually above the age of 40, it's very advisable for you to start lifting weights. Does laundry counts due to arm movement? Then how about folding clothes? All this, Munifa, doesn't fall under arm movements or doesn't fall under specific rate of movements, but this fall under something called need. non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which also helps in metabolization of fat and glycolysis in your body, right? So it does help. Too much exercise also not good, as it will affect bone density. No, too much of one kind of exercise is no good. So you have to actually have a variety of exercises, so that actually helps to maintain your heart health and also your bone density at the same time. Is Pilates same as yoga? No, Pilates is weight bearing yoga. Yoga is no weight bearing. So that's the difference. No, not shopping, just walking, brisk walk. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Using standing desk and stand for a few hours, is it okay? No, definitely okay, Ming Jun. I think that's a good way for us to start as well, to stand more. Sweating does not equate to losing weight, to losing fat. Sweating is a way for the body to regulate heat. So when you exercise, you release heat when you have oxidation happening in your body, and because of that heat, you're actually releasing sweat. So if you do in an aircon room and you don't sweat, does not mean that you're not losing fat. Metabolization of fat comes in heat, shows in your body by releasing of heat, and also shows in your body by releasing of a lot of carbon dioxide. Okay, should we cardio workout first or strength training first? Well, it's up to you. Some people love to do cardio first and then go for strength training. Some people love strength training, then go to cardio. I prefer strength training, then going to cardio. After 10 minutes HIIT, does it continue to burn fat, or is it a main? It doesn't. HIIT, if it's high intensity interval training that is cardio based, it doesn't burn fat continuously. If it's HIIT weight bearing, then yes, it does. Okay, let me just get on to a few more slides before I answer more questions. Okay, what is the risk of being inactive, right? So this is something that everybody has to know. Probably now it's not showing, but in the future, it might be something that is very concerning to a lot of people. So I'm going to talk about these 4 different metabolic or lifestyle diseases. Initially, there's 3, right? Initially, we always talk about blood glucose. We talk about blood cholesterol level. We talk about blood pressure. So these are the 3 things that we usually talk about. But now obesity has been included. So that's actually 4, right? So when you talk about obesity, also when you talk about complications, this is usually driven by food, secondary by being sedentary. So when we talk about blood sugar imbalance, what it actually does is that it reduces the ability of utilizing sugar in your blood effectively, and if that happens, usually that would lead to diabetes type 2. I'm going to touch that a little later in the next slides. Number 2 is the poor blood circulation. So when you have a weaker heart, your stroke volume is lower, your blood vessels are constricted. So that actually creates very poor heart health, right? And going through with this possibly can give you heart attack or stroke, right? So this is normal for people who don't look at vascularity. Your arteries are very, very narrowed and not flexible. And also for people who don't do cardio-based exercises where the heart walls are very thin and not able to sustain pressure much, right? Number 3, muscle stiffness. Muscle loses flexibility, so you feel body pain when you move suddenly, right? And you also feel that you can't lift yourself properly and you lose balance, and this can all cause towards physical injury, right? Okay, now let's talk about insulin resistance, which is a topic that I want to touch a little bit more. But before that, let me just go for a few questions. Oh no, I don't exercise much, but I hope taking stairs then taking lift can help. Certainly it is like right. Like I mentioned earlier, this is basically moving, right? So when you move more, then you see the benefits to your body. But of course, then slowly, gradually, you can start adapting to more things. But when it comes to health, when it comes to exercise, what really matters is results. So people get motivated with what they see, right? So if they see that they're losing weight in the mirror, if they see that they're getting stronger, if they don't feel fatigue anymore, these are the signs that's going to motivate people to continue doing. So usually what happens is that we start something and we go really hard on it and we don't see the results because, it's too fast, it's too high of an intensity, you don't get the results, you break down and you just don't do it ever again, right? So consistency is key and persistency is key. So make sure that you get that too, right? After doing HIIT to continue, but no, okay, I've answered that. I do mostly running 3 to 4 times a week with variety of intervals. static stretching and core training. What else do you recommend? I would say body weight training at home would work. Squats, lunges, push-ups, rows, pull-ups, things like this would work. Sure. Ian, can I have a copy of the slide? Obviously, we're going to give this in a PDF format later. How to know if our blood circulation is good? Okay, I'm going to touch that a little bit in a while. Does carrying a baby count as weightlifting? Yes and no. I'm going to touch that later as well. I heard the arch of my foot using treadmill recently has been quite sore and I haven't been able to exercise for the past 2 days. Do you have any advice to fix that? Okay, you have to see if your feet is actually a flat foot and if you're using the right kind of shoes to help you out with that. Does gardening combined with heavy lifting considered as active lifestyle? Certainly, Sakina. That's something that's very, very good. Now, I'm not going to read through the slide on insulin resistance, but I'm going to give you all some idea what insulin resistance actually is, right? So when we eat food, right, when we eat certain kind of food, or say when we have more carbohydrate food in our body, so especially the simple ones, right? So what it does is that it gets digested, it gets absorbed into your blood vessels as the form of glucose, right? So when glucose gets into your blood vessel, your pancreas actually releases insulin. So what this insulin actually does, what is the function of this insulin? So you have to understand, right? So the function of the insulin is very simple. It takes the glucose, it acts as a key, right? It acts as a key. And now here is your liver, your muscle, and also your fat cells. So what it does is that it takes the glucose as a key, it opens up the cell, and then it drops the glucose inside as a form of energy, right? So when we say that we are insulin resistant, it literally means that our cell, our muscle cell, our liver cell is resistant to insulin, right? So it cannot absorb insulin. So what happens to the insulin then, right? It remains in your bloodstream with the sugar, right? Because your cells become resistant to the insulin, the more you eat, the more sugar flows in your body, and the more the pancreas have to release insulin. So the pancreas have to work a lot more harder, right? So the pancreas is working harder. The insulin is trying to put all this sugar back into your cells, but your cell just doesn't want to accept it, right? So this will lead into increase of blood sugar level in your bloodstream that causes you to go to obesity. Now, another thing could happen as well. Get not obesity, diabetes, right? But another thing could happen as well. What happens, right? So now you're not doing any activity, so your muscle don't really need a lot of energy. So insulin tries to put into your muscle. The muscle don't want to have it, right? Goes into your liver. Liver doesn't want to take it. So what does it have to do? It goes into your fat and stores it into your fat cells. So you become bigger and bigger and bigger. So eating more sugar, this is how you get fatter when you eat more sugar, right? And also, what makes you eat more sugar? Now I'm going to get into the other part of it, which is primarily mental health, right? So when you're continuously feeling stress, when you're continuously feeling under pressure, right, for a extended period of time, your body starts releasing something called cortisol. So cortisol is a serum, it's a type of hormone. What it actually does to your body is that it traps fat cells. So whatever that you eat, it traps it. It doesn't go to your muscle as energy, but it goes into your fat cell. Right, that's number one. Number two, it makes you crave for sweet food. So you had an issue in the office, you're stressed. On your way back home, you want to grab an ice cream. These are all your cortisol telling you to grab, right? Grab this ice cream and all that and eat it. So these are all the things that happens in your body with cortisol. So how do you counter it? You counter it with different kinds of serum of hormone, which is endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, and also oxytocin. So endorphin comes when you exercise, it's your smile hormone, and then dopamine is your feel good hormone, satisfaction hormone, you feel satisfied, and then serotonin is your feel good hormone, you feel happy, and also oxytocin is also your feeling loved hormone. So all this counters cortisol a lot more better. So getting into a physical activity increases this a lot more greater, and getting into a physical activity with your loved ones increases this a lot more higher as well, right? So this is one of the ways that you can actually work with insulin resistance in your body, work with how you want to manage with craving of sweet food that doesn't increase insulin and sugar count in your blood, and also managing it a lot better, right? So I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to answer a few questions. Okay, what do you think about sugar alternative? How does brain body work? Okay, it doesn't matter. Sugar alternative, I think one of the most famous one is stevia that we use here. Stevia is a type of chemical that actually helps you to have that sugar taste, but it doesn't spike your sugar in your body. Of course, any chemical, as we say, that if you use a lot of it continuously for a long time, it's definitely not good for you, right? But if you're going to use it as a replacement for you to try to reduce intake of simple sugar, then that's absolutely fine for a short period of time. Meanwhile, you do that, learn how to manage your sugar intake a lot better. I think that will work a lot more better. Is there a test to check insulin resistance? Yes, of course. You can go to a clinic and you can just get this checked, right? So check your blood sugar, and then after you check your blood sugar, you can actually check with the doctor to see if you do actually have insulin resistance. Do we need to check HbA1c to check sugar level? It's a lot more effective. I would say it's a lot more accurate, because HbA1c would give you an average of the past 3 months of blood glucose level in your body compared to the one that you prick, right? So that's different. And if you prick at the wrong time, it could be different as well, because your sugar tend to spike in the morning, even if you fast the whole day, because your liver actually, your uh, uh, cholesterol has different precursors to act as sugar to energize your cell while you're in a fasting mode, right? So it happens. So if you prick in the morning, you probably feel, oh, why my sugar is very, very high, when you haven't eaten anything for the whole night. So there's a lot of reason to it. Cancer agent, yes, definitely. Sugar is definitely one of the biggest cancer agent. Inflammation is caused by increase of insulin resistance, increase of fat cells in your body, stress, not enough of sleep, irregular activity, inflammatory or carcinogenic food. So there's a lot of reasons for inflammation, right, Yang? So what inflammation are you talking about exactly? So all this can cause. So basically, when you do your lifestyle modification, you can actually prevent all this a lot better, right? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Adapting fitness to your health. Now, how do you want to do this? How about people who already have obesity, diabetes, increased triglycerides? Okay, increased triglycerides, diabetes, and obesity, primarily focusing on food intake, right? So triglycerides is a type of fat that flows in your in your blood, in a form of glycerol, and it is needed by your cell. But when too much of it comes out, it basically means that you've eaten too many things that are very fatty, right? So basically that. So diabetes is high in sugar. Obesity is basically high in calorie altogether. So when it comes to this kind of conditions, or anyone that you know that have this kind of conditions, what you need to do is that you need to focus a little bit more on muscle adaptation exercises. So which means you do small steps, more longer, right? So you continuously do, so more consistency is better. So when you talk about hypertension is something that is a little bit different compared to diabetes, obesity, and also I would say high cholesterol. Hypertension, you need to make sure that your heart learns how to have regular flow of pumping. At the same time, you need to have muscle strength increase and muscle size increase, because you want to increase vascularity in your body, which creates or increases the flexible artery walls, which are not stiff, right? So stiff artery walls can cause more uh, damage to your body when you have hypertension compared to more flexible artery walls. So exercises, isometric exercises, like exercises that you don't need to move too much, like you hold a wall seat, a plank, those kind of exercises. So those actually helps you to build a little bit of muscle, increases vascularity, regulates heart beat, and also ensures that your arteries are more adaptive, or blood flow is getting a lot better, and your stroke volume also gets a lot better. Finally, arthritis. Arthritis is also a type of movement. It's a type of disease that actually inflames your joints. So you need to do exercises that doesn't inflame your joints too much, right? So exercises like repetitive running, repetitive walking, things like this could be bad for you. But you can do exercises that are specifically for certain body parts where it doesn't affect the parts that you have arthritis. But proper movements, proper loading, and also proper management care, as in stretching and cooling down and all that, would help a lot in arthritis. Okay. What about inflammation? Okay. Trigger fingers. I am not so certain about that. Trigger fingers. Trigger fingers are young. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. High cholesterol, but statin is causing joint pains. Definitely. Medication have side effects. It affects people differently young. So taking statin is definitely going to affect you. Some people have told me that they feel dizzy. Some people have told me that they have joint pains. So this is actually a common cause. Primarily, what we want to do is that we want to adapt to lifestyle modification and lifestyle medicine in order for us to reverse this a lot more better. Okay. Personalizing your movement routine. Right. So this is something that I want to talk about: different cultures, jobs, and also abilities. Right. So when we talk about different cultures and we talk about different jobs, now there could be people who are very very busy. There could be people who are from certain culture that can't be together in a room with men and women. There's some limitations and whatnot, right? So try to get into an activity that suits you best, right? Don't try to achieve something just because someone else have achieved it. So if you feel that walking first for 10 minutes a day works for you, then start with walking first, right? If you feel that, okay, I'm just going to do body weight based exercise at home for 5 to 10 minutes, then we can certainly do body weight exercises for 5 to 10 minutes. That's absolutely fine, right? So make sure that uh, you do that a lot more. And also another difference when I want to talk about cultural preferences is that a lot of people for Friday prayers, when I see they walk to church, they walk to mosque. Even on Sunday prayers, they walk to church, right? So these are some of the things that you can do to incorporate cultural into your exercise, right? Or into your movement. So it doesn't have to be something that is specifically gym based, right? And I get a lot of people who go for traditional dances, especially Indians, right? Bharatanatyam, they go for traditional dances. These are all forms of exercise, right? So this is certainly something that you can do um, for you to be able to get into an activity to start off first, right? Michael can share email. Michael, you can actually reach out to Naluri, like you can send us a message, and then my team will actually help you with that. Okay, so now let's talk about the next one. Movement ideas. So yes, what can we do? What can we not do? Or what are the things that probably limiting us and how we can actually work better on this? Now let's talk about busy professionals, right? So talk about busy professionals. Stand while you're working. Their standing desk, like someone asked earlier, is standing desk good? It's good. So stand while you're working. Someone also asked earlier, can I use stairs rather than the elevator? Certainly use the stairs more. And practice desk exercise. What is desk exercise? Desk exercise are desk-based movements. You lift your leg while seated. You do a little bit of stretching movements, right? So you do stretching and things like that. So these are all desk exercise. So practice desk exercise. For people who are, probably senior citizens above the age of 60, do a little bit of walking, right? Get into social activities that will encourage you. Pickleball is actually being very, very famous right now. So get into pickleball, very slow movement. And there is a huge community in Malaysia who are senior citizens who have got into pickleball, right? So you can actually do it. But more than that, I would like to advise that get into strength training to build more muscle mass in your body because of the effect of sarcopenia that I mentioned earlier. And also, a lot of people tell me that, oh, I don't have a big space for me to work out, right? Jumping jacks, jump ropes, this just require a space big enough for you to stand, right? So you don't have big places. Try to figure out ways that and exercises that you can do to get into that big space, the small space, right? Bodyweight exercises, as I mentioned earlier, squats, push-ups, lunges, rows, pull-ups, right? And all this doesn't really need you to have big spaces as well. Now, what are the common barriers? These are something that I hear very, very common with a lot of people. We have intrinsic and we have extrinsic barriers. So when you talk about intrinsic barriers, time, right? So we talk about time. Time is something that a lot of people tell me that they don't have for them to start exercising. Number two, space. Oh, I don't have space in my house. I can't do it in the office. It's not appropriate, right? Number three, motivation. I just don't have the energy. I just don't have the mood, right? I don't want to go to the gym because everybody looks so good and I don't look so good. So this kind of things actually happens, right? Now, how do you want to overcome this? First, in the aspect of time, split your exercise to 5 or 6 sessions. Don't do it in one go, right? If you have the time, do it in one go. I get tired already by the time I have the free time. Exactly, Maylin, right? So these are some of the things that we have to look on. So do it. Don't find time, but take time, right? So as I mentioned earlier, walk for 10 minutes after your lunch. So we are taking time to do it rather than we are trying to find the time to do it, right? So that's very, very important because if you find the time, you'll never have the time. You'll never have 1 hour with you that so that that you can actually set aside, that you can actually focus only for exercises. It's not that easy in a busy lifestyle that we have right now, right? Especially if you're working in a corporate organization and you're staying in a very busy place, it's not that easy for us to get to that stage, right? Number two, space. adjust your exercise and make sure that it fits the space that you have. You don't have to follow a specific video, a specific guru on the internet. Find the exercise that is suitable for you. If you don't know how to do it, you can use the Naluri app. Reach out to me, reach out to my colleagues, right? We will actually get one prepared for you based on what you can already do, right? And what you are capable of doing. Very personalized for you rather than just one random exercise or one high level exercise. We'll work towards getting you into achieving your goals and also considering all the diseases or any barriers that you may have. Number three, motivation, increase discipline, completing short exercises. Okay, so for me, I would say that motivation is actually the byproduct of discipline. So when you have the discipline, motivation increases. So most importantly, to set discipline, we have a rule called 21 21 21. That means start an exercise 21 hours after you stop the first one. Try it for 21 days for you to see changes, and do it for 21 weeks for you to make it a part of your life. Right? So if you can do it for 21 weeks, your body will automatically want you to do more. Right? Good. So let's move on to the next one. And before that, let me just answer a few questions here. Sports injury dampers motivation move. Of course. What kind of injury do you have, Sakina? Right. So I am also a biomechanics specialist, and I also work on corrective exercises. So if you can reach out to us in Naluri, and you can actually chat with me, I can take you through corrective exercises to improve or to make your injury less burdening to your exercises, and eventually perhaps maybe also repair your body to a state where it can actually get back to its normal stage of exercising. 10 times push-up, squat, lunges with 3 times in a day. Is that good? Any warm-up needed? You certainly need warm-up, Kasen, to prevent injury, to make sure that your muscles are elastic enough that it can move in a way that it should, and not get into shocks or injuries a lot more better, right? So please reach out to us again. We'll be more than happy to work on this with you, right, on the app, and we'll be happy to share with you how you can modify this exercise and make it a routine that can work for you better. Okay, so you have given it to Kimberly cardio, then strength if you want to build muscles. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can do that, right? So I do strength training first, then I finish it off with cardio. But if you want to do cardio first, that's absolutely fine. I have muscle injury around my ankle from a sprain, and even light running causes soreness in my foot. We can certainly make correctiveness to it. Maylene, you have to reach out to us again, and I need to assess your feet first. Then I can share with you what are the types of corrective exercise that you can do in order for you to make your feet feel better, right? Okay, now let's look at setting goals. So setting goals is very, very important, right? So when you talk about setting goals, if you talk about setting goals, then we want to make sure that you set your goals quite effectively, right? I'm sure that all of you have heard about SMART goals, but I'm not going to touch too much about SMART goals, but I'm going to go on the main points of the SMART goals, right? Be very specific with your goal. Make sure that you know or you have in mind that if you want to reduce your blood sugar level within the next 6 months, and you want to set aside half an hour every day for 5 days a week, before I start my day. So that's very specific, right? It's also measurable, it's also achievable, and it's relevant to what you want to achieve, and it is also time bound. So when you set a SMART goal, tell yourself that what you want to achieve at the end of it, right? So then that makes the goal a lot more relevant. Because if you just want to say that I'm going to lose weight, and that's going to be your every year resolution, right? So try to come out of that lose weight. Try to say that I'm going to make this so that I'm going to achieve this, right? So those kind of goals, okay? And finally, to stay motivated, number one, habit stacking. Habit stacking is very, very important. I don't know how many of you have actually heard of habit stacking, but habit stacking is a formula that I actually use right now with a lot of people. And then one of the examples of habit stacking is walk right after eating, or walk right after I finish my prayer, right? Or maybe do 10 sit-ups each time every 15 minutes that I see, right? So when you do this kind of activity. So that actually tells you that for everything that you do, you add on something to it. So when that happens, then there is a motivation, and there is a very clear way for you to start incorporating activity inside your uh, daily routine, right? Number two, set accountability, right? How do you set accountability to yourself? Get a buddy to work with you, right? Make sure the buddy forces you to work. And if the buddy doesn't work, you work with the buddy, force them to work. Get a coach, speak to me, right? Speak to me, speak to my colleague in Naluri app, right? And get them to actually help you to set your goals straight. Set a tracker, get a smartwatch, get a tracker, right? So get a tracker, set a goal on a daily basis, get that tracking done. Finally, self kindness. Every progress that you make is better than getting into perfection, right? So tell yourself that small progresses are worth celebrating rather than getting yourself into, uh, I will, my goal is to get a six pack. That doesn't get you there, right? So if you can exercise 3 times a week consistently, pat yourself at the back, go and tell yourself that you did a good job, and celebrate that win, right? If you've done it 5 times a week, celebrate it again, right? If you had one good meal a day, celebrate it. If you had one good meal a day for 5 times in a week, celebrate it again. So these are how you actually make sure that you build habit rather than working on a huge goal altogether, right? So with that, let me share with you what are the resources that we have before we get into the Q&A. Some of the things that we have is, of course, the Naluri care line and text line. So you have a 24 hours text line for free. So anybody who wants to chat with us and you want to get more support from us via chat, you can do so. It's available 24 hours, so you'll get someone to actually respond to you at any point of the day. And if you need urgent um, support at that time, you can do it, right? But everything else is during working hours. Text line is 24/7, so you can do it anytime that you want to. Number two, you can actually book time with myself or any other consultants in Naluri. You can scan on the QR code right now. It takes you to a page where you can actually make booking. And once you do the booking, you can actually get a one-to-one session with us. We can guide you through a 1 hour call, like how you see in the photo here. And then you also have, you can also measure your emotional well-being by taking this very quick assessment. Just scan the QR code and get into this assessment. This will actually make you understand a lot more better about your mental state right now. And it only takes you like a couple of minutes to do it, right? And these are absolutely free, available for you, so you can actually benefit from it. And finally, the Naluri app is where you can talk to all coaches like myself and any other discipline, and they will be more than happy to speak to you, work on your goals, and also help you to, overcome all these barriers that you may have in order for you to achieve your wellness goal, right? So let's stay connected. Okay, you can scan this QR code. You can follow us in Facebook and also in Insta, right? And I also would like to let you know that we are going to share a feedback form right now. So what I want you to do is to fill out the feedback form. Let us know how you think this webinar went. Let us know how you feel you want the next webinars to be like, right? And we're more than happy to answer. And once everyone fills this feedback form, we are going to go into the Q&A, and I will answer all the remaining questions that we have. Or while we are actually filling up this feedback form, I will still touch these questions, right? Okay, I always incorporate 2 minutes rule to build habits. Tell myself to do sit up just for 2 minutes. I always end up doing 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, that's a good way. Sure, that's a good tip that you can actually share with your colleagues and everyone else there. Like incorporate 2 minutes of squats whenever you want to, right? So there should be a stacking component to it. So why do you want to do it for 2 minutes? So there should be something before that, and then that motivates you to do it for 2 minutes or more, right? I set a mileage of 100 kilometers every month. The distance to move. Oh, that's very, very good, honey, right? That's very, very good. 100 kilometers is a lot of distance to cover, but if you can achieve it, yeah, I've seen people achieving 5 to 10 kilometers a day on weekends and 2 to 3 kilometers on other days. So this is definitely achievable. So if you can do it consistently every month, that would be very, very good, honey. Please continue doing it. Is this using WhatsApp? No, it's using an app. It's called the Naluri app. So you can actually subscribe to the app. I think it's you can reach out to Naluri Events. They'll be more than happy to help you out with that. And once you complete that, you can actually uh, once you reach out to them, they will guide you to actually get into the app, right? I think we're already into the Q&As already, so I'm just going to skip the slide to the Q&A. Okay, let me see. Does carrying a baby count as weightlifting? Okay, there was a similar question asked earlier, Nazatul Aisha, right? Yes and no. So when you talk about weightlifting, there should be a reason why we are lifting weight, and most of the time we lift weight is to increase muscle strength, is to increase muscle engagement, is to also increase muscle size, so that we work on the metabolic part of the muscle, the benefits of the metabolic from the muscle, right? So lifting a baby, if the baby is too light, it doesn't engage your muscles too much, right? And not for too long that it's enough to engage your muscles for two. So if your baby is slightly heavier, maybe it's already a few months to a year, and then you're lifting your baby and it's a little bit more heavier, that works on the muscle engagement better, right? And that is the reason why I say yes and no. If it's too light, it doesn't help that much. If it's too heavy, if it's heavy enough, then yes, it does. Text line, yeah, you can reach out to our uh, Naluri events. They'll be able to guide you through on that. I am not so certain on the text line. Yes, we do use WhatsApp. That's true. That's true. We do use WhatsApp. Absolutely right, Ali. What type of exercise that would suggest for someone who is having plantar fasciitis? First, Hasniza, uh, that is an effect to your biggest tendon in your body, right? So first, you need to have corrective exercises for your plantar fasciitis. You need to know whether your dorsiflexion, your flexion and your plantar flexion is actually working well without pain before getting into a specific exercise, right? Repair first, correct first before we get into a specific exercise. But what you could also do is that you could do upper body based exercises, right? You can do elevated knee push-ups, you can do rows, band over rows, you can work on dumbbells and stuff like that, but not so much on squats and whatnot, because we do not know if your how worse is your plantar fasciitis, and we need to get that corrected first. Please consider similar sessions, but for preventing cancer. Sure, sure, sure. Thank you for that feedback. I have done one in the past for cancer. If you go to our website and you go to resources, you can actually find one for cancer, and that was a panel session we've done with a few coaches, different disciplines. We talk about what actually affects cancer, what kind of food affects cancer, how to overcome, whether coffee helps and other stuff help, what types of exercises creates that metabolic adaptation better. We have touched all this in the previous webinar. You can actually get it in the resources page in our website, naluri.life, right? What about carrying dumbbells and walk around for 1 minute? How heavy should the dumbbells be? Okay, so this is an exercise known as the farmer's walk. It has to be extremely heavy. That works on your core, Wai Chin. So if you lift the dumbbells and walk, it works on your core a lot more when it's very, very heavy. But if you don't lift it very, very heavy and you're lifting it light and you're walking, it helps more on your cardio benefit, which is your heart benefit, because then your body needs to pump a lot more weight to lift that extra weight in your body while you're walking. So it's more cardiovascular based. Good. We have 2 more minutes, and if you have any questions, you can ask one last question. I'll probably answer that. And other than that, I think then it would be the end of our session today. And yes, the handouts have already been given, so you can download it, right? You can download it and you can get the slides. Is it okay to follow workout tutorials on YouTube? Yes, Aslan, it's absolutely fine. But you need to have a specific goal on why you need to do these exercises. You can actually reach out to us, Aslan, and what we will do is that we will guide you to the right YouTube channel for you to follow based on your goal. In Naluri app, how do I find you? Fitness coach or medical advisor? Fitness coach. You find me in the Fitness Coach Sakina. All you need to do is just say hi, Shasikumar, and I will respond to you. How many sessions of personal training would be necessary in a week? I would say if you can do a minimum of 3, that would be good. Wajin, you can actually book one of our fitness coaches for consultation session, and you get this consultation session for free if your employer have paid for it. And you can do as many personal training session with that fitness coach virtually as much as you want. You're most welcome, Norayu. I hope that it actually helped you to understand a little bit more about movements and how your body works. And we can definitely share a lot more to you um, in the future. You're most welcome, Sakina. Okay, so I think then this is the end of our webinar. Thank you so much and bye.